I called her to share the news, only to be met with jealousy and accusation instead of congratulations, she said, trying to beat me to the altar now? And I'm 33 now, married, a mother, with a job that doesn't drain me and a house that feels more like home than the one I grew up in. My sister Sloane is 35 and has never stopped acting like we're still fighting over who gets to sit in the front seat. If there was ever a trophy for being first, she'd have engraved her name on it before the competition even started. First to get a bike, first to wear lipstick, first to go to a sleepover, first to kiss a boy, first to drive, first to leave for college. She used to announce her firsts like ceremonial milestones and expected applause each time, even when nobody cared. She didn't just thrive on being first, she depended on it, like her identity was stitched together with blue ribbons and early achievements. When I got into Glenfield University 2 years after she did, for an entirely different program in a different part of campus, she didn't smile or even pretend to be proud. She vanished for the entire weekend, locked in her room at our parents' place in Columbus, emerging only for water and more disdain. I later found out from our mutual friend Leah that Sloane had told people I was following her around like a desperate shadow, which stung more than I admitted to anyone. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was stress, maybe some fragile ego thing, maybe older sibling theatrics. I tried not to hold it against her. But the pattern didn't fade with age, it calcified. When I found a decent apartment after college, a small but livable place 5 miles from where Sloane lived with her boyfriend in River Heights, she acted like I had bought a plot of land inside her skin. She told people I was recreating her life, like a weird twin with a delay button. When I adopted a black Labrador named Ren 2 years after she got a golden retriever named Daisy, she posted a photo of her dog next to mine with the caption, "They say flattery is the sincerest form of desperation," followed by a wink emoji that made me want to toss my phone across the room. The reactions were always uncomfortable laughs or long silences, the kind people use when they don't want to take sides but also don't want to pretend it's normal. She turned every small moment into a competition and kept acting like I was the one doing it. The tension was constant but never loud. It came in waves of cold shoulders, sideways glances, passive-aggressive comments posted online just vague enough to avoid confrontation but sharp enough to sting. The moment it stopped being tolerable came when Caleb proposed to me during a quiet weekend in Asheville. We were hiking. The leaves had just turned that warm, syrupy orange, and he asked without theatrics, just sincerity. When I called Sloane to share the news, her response wasn't congratulations or even a forced smile through the phone. It was, wow, trying to beat me to the altar now? Just like that. Not even half a second of joy, just an accusation with a bitter aftertaste. That was the moment I stopped giving her space in my head. I didn't argue, didn't tell her off, didn't defend myself. I ended the call, walked over to my desk, and pulled out a blank notebook. On the first page, I wrote the date, the quote, and the situation. That notebook became my silent archive, the place I wrote every time she said I was copying her or reinventing her life. I kept it in the back of my dresser, away from prying eyes and scrolling thumbs, because it wasn't for revenge or pity, it was for clarity. From that point on, I stopped giving her access. I cut out the family group chat updates, deleted my old photo albums, and locked down my social media until only my closest friends could see anything. If someone asked what I was up to, I kept it vague, working, same old stuff, even if I was neck deep in wedding plans or browsing baby names just for fun. I realized the less she knew, the less fuel she had. And in that silence, something shifted. We got married in a small town outside Montreal, just the two of us, a few close friends, and our parents. No posts, no countdown, no matching robes or rose petal aisles, just a circle of chairs on the grass, a violinist playing softly, and my feet bare in the grass. I told our parents not to tell Sloane anything, not the date, not the place, not even the continent. They didn't fight me on it. The only way she found out was because our mother changed her phone background to a photo of me and Caleb on the rocks near the lake, barefoot and smiling, with flower crowns we made ourselves. She called our cousin Mallory and ranted for an hour, saying I was trying to outdo her in secret, calling me sneaky, like I'd stolen a test answer instead of planned a quiet wedding. 6 weeks later, she got engaged to a man she'd met at a winter art gallery opening. His name was Devin. Nobody in the family had even heard of him. She announced it online with a slideshow of 43 photos set to a violin remix of a pop song and set the wedding date for exactly 11 months after mine. I didn't comment. I'd stopped playing the game a long time ago. By then, I had started focusing on building a life that actually belonged to me, not one curated for approval or defense. I filled our home with thrifted art and soft fabrics, painted the kitchen in a color I couldn't even name, just because it felt right. We didn't have a couch that matched the throw pillows or a rug that tied the room together. We had a life that didn't need commentary. And that peace was something I wasn't willing to trade back, even when she kept trying to provoke me. When I found out I was pregnant just after our first anniversary, I told only 4 people: my parents, my stepmother Teresa, and my best friend Fiona. I asked them not to say anything. 2 weeks later, Sloane posted an Instagram photo of her and Devin with a chalkboard sign that read, "Baby coming soon. Timing is everything." She wasn't even pregnant yet. The caption made it clear they had just decided to try. But the implication? That she had beaten me to it. Again, that was when I knew she was still searching for a spotlight that I'd walked away from years ago. And no matter how loud she got, I wasn't stepping back into it. I didn't need to win. I just needed to build something worth keeping, quietly, firmly, without her watching through the glass. I never expected her to stop entirely, but I did expect the obsession to lose its edge eventually. Instead, it calcified into something worse: quiet surveillance disguised as coincidence, an almost clinical level of mimicry that made it feel like I was living under mirrored glass. The fewer updates I gave, the deeper she dug. Fiona started noticing it before I did. She'd text me screenshots every few weeks, a Pinterest board titled "Sage Green Serenity" that matched mine to the layout, or a caption using phrasing I'd written in a private message. Once, she forwarded me a snapshot of Sloane's new kitchen plan: identical brass fixtures, matching tile shapes, even the range brand circled like it was her original discovery. I told Fiona to save everything, not to confront, not to stir anything, just document it quietly. We had a folder now, password protected, named Driftwood, filled with screenshots, dates, links, and layout comparisons. We didn't obsess over it. We just collected, like cataloging weather patterns before a storm. That year, while I was 5 months pregnant, I opened a private message thread for my dad, Teresa, Fiona, and one childhood friend. It wasn't for curated moments or bump updates. It was quiet, casual, and honest. I sent them a photo of the nursery mid-renovation and mentioned the name we'd chosen. No one forwarded it. No one slipped. But 3 weeks later, Sloane posted an announcement on social media, holding a wooden plaque with the words, "Our turn is coming soon," while tagging baby product brands in the comments. She wasn't pregnant. She made that clear, but the message landed exactly where she wanted it to. Every move of mine cast a shadow she tried to outrun. After that, I went completely offline. No photos, no group threads, no casual mentions through mutuals. I asked everyone close to me to say nothing, no updates, not even surface-level chatter. If she wanted to keep mirroring, she'd have to guess where the glass was. I wasn't going to feed her anymore. When my baby shower came, we kept it small, just a soft afternoon tea with 6 women I trusted, tucked into a quiet room with pastel wallpaper and lavender scones. I wore a light periwinkle dress with embroidered hems I'd ordered online after texting 2 options to Fiona. 2 weeks later, at a family dinner hosted by my aunt, Sloane arrived in the exact same dress. Same cut, same embroidery, even the same strappy sandals I'd worn. She didn't say a word about it, but when I looked up, I caught my father glancing across the table at Teresa, confusion painted plainly across his face. No one commented directly, but the tension crept in around the edges like fog through a broken window. Devin looked visibly uncomfortable. He tried to make small talk about the drive-in, but Sloane cut him off to talk about nursery themes and which professional photographer she'd already booked for the first-month shoot, though her due date wasn't even confirmed yet. I didn't engage. I asked for a second helping of dessert and helped clear plates before leaving early. In the early days of sleepless nights and bottle rotations, I started making little nursery pieces by hand, mobiles, stitched name signs, wall hangings using fabric scraps and thread. It gave my mind something to shape while my daughter slept unevenly. After a few weeks, Fiona convinced me to list them on Etsy. I used a pseudonym and a quiet brand name. No tags, no shoutouts. 3 months in, orders were slow but steady. I never posted about it, never shared the link. Then Fiona sent me a link. Sloan had launched her own decor line. The site used the same layout template as mine, even the same pale coral headers and product staging, right down to a wood-grain backdrop I'd bought from a thrift store. The product names mimicked mine, the packaging colors matched my palette, and the entire thing felt like a reflected image with just enough difference to claim coincidence. I opened my laptop that night and compiled timestamps, Etsy confirmations, design files, domain registry emails, dated prototypes. I made sure every record was sealed, watermarked, filed, and untouched by emotion. But still, I said nothing. Not to her, not to the family, not even to Devin, who once messaged Caleb with a vague, "Hope everything's good on your end," that went unanswered. The silence between us had become a moat. Every time she cast a line, I didn't bite. Instead, I built the walls higher, wider, stronger. At the next family gathering, I brought a simple photo album I'd printed through a local shop. Linen cover, handwritten captions, snapshots of our daughter's first month, a wrinkled yawn, her first hiccup, a crooked sock slipping off her foot. I handed it to Teresa, who teared up flipping through the pages. My dad took it next, then my uncle. Everyone passed it along, pausing, smiling, murmuring soft reactions. Sloan didn't ask to see it. Instead, she started talking, louder than usual, about her plans for her future child's monthly professional shoots and the branded baby book she was designing from the infant's perspective. No one contradicted her. No one played along either. They had just seen what real looked like, and her performance suddenly felt like a rerun. Our daughter turned 1 in April. We planned a simple picnic with a few friends from the building, my parents, and 3 toddlers from the neighborhood. I baked a vanilla sheet cake the night before and tied a soft pink ribbon in her hair. Halfway through the afternoon, Sloan arrived unannounced, wearing a pale blush maxi dress nearly identical to the one I'd worn at our wedding. Fiona froze when she saw it, then leaned over and muttered, "Did she dig through your old photos?" Sloan smiled like she belonged there and handed me a bakery box, saying she brought a little something in case you hadn't planned ahead. Inside was a 2-tiered jungle-themed fondant cake with gold script and edible leaves, elaborate, excessive, and completely untouched. I had already sliced into the homemade one, and everyone asked for seconds. One cousin whispered later that Sloan had posted a photo of the jungle cake 2 days before, clearly part of her plan to upstage something she hadn't even been invited to. I didn't comment. I passed out lemonade, helped our daughter wipe frosting off her eyelid, and took photos of her smashing the cake with both hands. We cleaned up before sunset and drove home in silence, the kind that feels earned, not empty. That week, Sloan announced her pregnancy. The post was standard: ultrasound photo, floral border, staged lighting. A few days later, she texted our mother an invitation to her gender reveal party. Same location I'd used for a post-shower gathering the year before. Same font on the invitation. Same watercolor leaves I had painted by hand. I didn't attend. I sent a short message through Teresa, wishing her health and nothing more. A week later, Fiona texted me a side-by-side image of Sloan's nursery reveal. Same sage green walls. Same wooden letter cutouts mounted above the crib. Same nightlight I'd spent 2 weeks sourcing from a small designer in Vermont. We didn't talk about it. We just saved it. That month, I launched a second business, a keepsake kit for new parents with compartments for letters, hospital tags, tiny locks of hair, all wrapped in soft linen and sealed with wax stamps. I made 100 units. They sold out in 12 days. No paid promo, just parent groups and word of mouth. The following day, Sloan posted a story featuring mock-ups for a motherhood memory kit. Same muted tones, same fonts, same compartments. No credit, no difference. Fiona texted me one word. Again. I didn't reply. I emailed the hospital where we delivered and offered 10 kits a month, free of charge, for new families. They accepted. I signed the contract and added a new tab to the site. Then I lit a candle and sat on the floor with my daughter, stacking blocks until the sky darkened, and the only sound in the room was her tiny laugh echoing off the walls. Orders kept rolling in faster than I expected, and I expanded to include new colors and label designs. Every box was packed by hand at my kitchen table, often while my daughter napped in her bassinet, fingers curled like commas. My husband helped with the packaging on weekends, printing postage and organizing shipments into tidy stacks by the front door. It felt like building something real, piece by piece, without chasing approval or applause. Meanwhile, Sloane kept casting shadows toward me like she thought I couldn't feel them anymore. At the next extended family lunch, I brought lemon bars I had baked that morning and quietly slipped into a seat beside my cousin's wife. People smiled when they saw me. My uncle offered to carry the cooler. I didn't bring flyers or updates or even mention the hospital partnership. I wasn't there to prove anything. But before we'd finished our sandwiches, someone asked Sloane about her new business project. She gave a vague answer about delays with printing and said she was still finalizing concepts. My stepmother glanced up from her plate but didn't say a word. I didn't either. The silence was heavier than confrontation, more final than an argument. Sloane pivoted fast, launching into a monologue about growing her audience and considering a rebrand into mindful parenting. Then she looked directly at me, her voice sugar-coated with venom, and said something about how some people just can't handle when others gain momentum. I smiled, took a sip of my lemonade, and replied, "That's funny. I was thinking the same." The table broke into restrained laughter. Even my dad, who usually stayed quiet, chuckled and looked down at his napkin. Sloane went silent for the rest of the meal. 3 months later, she gave birth. I found out through a group text forwarded by our cousin Mallory, not from her directly. I ordered a gift basket from a boutique service, organic lotion, a soft cotton blanket, a small candle, and a neutral onesie. I didn't attach a note or name. Just sent it. No questions, no performance. Fiona texted me later that evening. Sloane had received the basket during a visit with several relatives, rolled her eyes, and said, "How original." She left it unopened on the counter, took a photo for her story with the caption, "Some people just don't know how to be authentic." No one replied publicly, but I saw who watched it. More than half of them were already pulling away. A month later, I started volunteering once a week at my daughter's preschool. Just simple crafts and cleanup after lunch. No posts, no announcements. 2 weeks in, Sloane launched a Mommy and Me vlog. Fiona sent me the video link with no comment, just a sigh. In the clip, Sloane adjusted her hair between takes, kept glancing off camera to see if anyone was watching, and tried to record herself describing a peaceful park moment, while her newborn screamed in the stroller beside her. The contrast was stark. She wanted the image, not the experience. Then came the podcast. She released 2 episodes, one about the burden of being the eldest, and another titled The Copycat Complex. Both were 15-minute monologues filled with cryptic barbs and self-pity. She didn't use names, but anyone who had followed our story could decode the script within seconds. I didn't respond. I didn't acknowledge it, not even in private. I learned that silence didn't just protect my peace, it amplified it. In early spring, our aunt hosted a reunion at a botanical garden. She wanted everyone there, and I agreed to come. I wore jeans and a soft gray sweater, brought a fruit salad and a box of juice packs, and helped set up folding chairs under the oak trees. Sloane arrived late, with a hired photographer, a lace-covered baby in tow, and a friend filming wide shots of her walking through flower beds like she was starring in an advertisement for motherhood. She staged 3 separate candid moments before lunch. During one, her baby dropped a cracker and started to cry. The camera paused. Sloane checked her lipstick on her phone before picking the child up. Meanwhile, I passed napkins to toddlers, tied a shoelace, and carried juice to our grandmother. I wasn't trying to perform. I was just present. Still, people noticed. My cousin's wife asked for a link to the keepsake kits. A friend of hers asked for a card. I gave out 6 before the sandwiches were even unwrapped. Sloane managed one group photo, but no one lingered. During cleanup, she approached me while I was bagging trash and whispered, "You think being quiet makes you clever?" People only like you because you play the victim. I didn't argue. I held out a second garbage bag and walked away. Later that week, she rebranded her vlog to match the exact muted tones of my site. The logo looked like a budget knockoff of another known creator. She started posting about slow parenting and conscious homemaking, but her captions were stitched from buzzwords and copied blog posts. Meanwhile, I got a message from a parenting site I'd never contacted. One of their writers had received a keepsake kit from a friend and wanted to feature it in a piece on low-pressure parenting products. The post went live the following Tuesday with photos, a short interview, and a sidebar about our hospital donation program. Fiona texted me in all caps. I smiled, made tea, and watched the orders spike. I didn't share the post. I didn't tag anyone. But 2 days later, under that very article, a comment appeared from an anonymous account. These ideas are lifted straight from Pinterest. Total lack of originality. Fiona checked the account's activity. It had only ever liked Sloane's posts. The article's author clapped back immediately, posted a screenshot of my product timeline, cited the hospital contract, and publicly reaffirmed support for independent creators. The comment vanished 2 hours later, deleted without a trace. We added another file to Driftwood that evening and said nothing. Sloane's podcast disappeared quietly 2 weeks later. No farewell, no explanation. Just gone. Her site redirected to a blank landing page. Her vlog stopped updating. One of her old acquaintances texted Fiona and said, "She's unraveling." Fiona didn't reply. Neither did I. That same month, I was invited to speak on a local entrepreneurship panel hosted by a women's collective. They'd seen my products at a pop-up and wanted me to discuss scaling handmade items into small-scale retail. I said yes. I didn't post about it. I didn't invite anyone outside my circle. The room filled with about 60 people. Mostly women with notebooks and quiet curiosity. A local journalist quoted me in a short piece titled, "Mothers Who Build." 2 days before the event, Sloane announced a branding seminar at the downtown library. The flyer used the same blush color scheme and minimalist font. Fiona sent me a photo with one eyebrow emoji. The tagline had a typo, "Inner Strength" spelled with an extra A. Her seminar live stream pulled in 22 viewers. The chat asked one question. She didn't answer. I didn't gloat. I didn't even watch the stream. Instead, I took my daughter to the park the next morning, wrapped her in a warm hoodie, and watched her run between swings while maple leaves fell around us like golden confetti. The more Sloane yelled into the void, the louder the quiet around me became. And for the first time, I felt it fully, not just the silence, but the calm that lived inside it. The weeks after the panel passed quietly, but I noticed the shift before anyone said it out loud. People who used to nod politely when I spoke were now seeking me out for advice, asking questions without pretense, sharing their own starts and ideas like I was safe to brainstorm with. It wasn't about admiration, it was about respect, the quiet kind that doesn't need applause to matter. I didn't post about it. I didn't need to. I just kept building at my own pace. Sloane, on the other hand, launched a new Etsy shop less than 10 days after the article went up. She called it Heartfire Apparel, and the banner image was a faded sunset overlay that looked oddly similar to the background on my FAQ page. Her shop sold tote bags, mugs, and sweatshirts with pastel quotes printed across the front. The problem wasn't the aesthetic, it was the text. Half the phrases were word for word from the blurbs I'd written on my site months earlier. Fiona caught it first and cross-checked everything. Etsy flagged it for copyright within a week and took the whole store down without ceremony. 2 days later, a new shop appeared under a slightly altered username, claiming the first had been sabotaged by haters. The inventory was the same, the slogans unchanged, the description box now padded with defensive disclaimers about creative theft and originality. Fiona didn't bother laughing this time. She just screenshotted it, added it to Driftwood, and moved on. That same week, our preschool sent home a book with my daughter, something about names and identity, glossy and bright. The cover made my stomach twist. The main character had my daughter's exact name, same spelling, same auburn ponytail drawn across the page. Her stuffed rabbit, even the bedtime phrase she said before sleep, were lifted word for word from a short story I had once shared in a private chat with Teresa. I didn't overreact. I didn't report it or contact the school or even mention it to anyone besides Fiona. who sat in stunned silence when she saw the photos. Instead, I did what I always did. I documented. Then I added it to the folder, took a deep breath, and went back to packing orders. I knew what this was now. It wasn't admiration, and it wasn't resentment. It was erasure in motion. She didn't want to win anymore. She wanted to replace me completely, to wear my life like a borrowed coat and insist it had always been hers. But I wasn't playing the game, and that made her angrier than anything else I could have done. Sloane's second Etsy shop didn't last long. This time, she'd copied promotional blurbs from a well-known mental health creator with a strong following and legal team. Within 48 hours, the entire page was gone. Etsy issued a permanent ban, preventing her from opening future shops under the same credentials. Fiona texted me with one line, "Even the internet has had enough." I didn't respond. There was no victory in watching someone drown in their own reflection. Weeks later, a parenting magazine reached out. They were starting a column written by small business owners who were also mothers and wanted my voice included. Someone had nominated me anonymously. I accepted, but under a pen name, no photos, no tags, just quiet authorship. Every other Tuesday, a piece ran online, filled with gentle advice, honest challenges, and practical steps that didn't rely on viral tricks or false perfection. The readership grew slowly and steadily. Around the same time, my husband received a strange message from Devin, just a short note, casual and soft, saying he wanted to clear the air and end the tension. My husband didn't reply. There was nothing to fix that wasn't ours to carry. A month later, Fiona called and said the words I had been expecting for over a year. They've separated. He moved out last week. No announcement, no blow-up, just distance. Devin had taken a guest room at a friend's place across town and told someone in passing that he didn't feel like he married Sloane. He said he'd married a version of me dressed in someone else's style. I didn't flinch. I didn't comment. There was nothing in that statement I hadn't already felt beneath the surface. The truth had simply come out through someone else's mouth now, and the weight of it didn't surprise me, it just confirmed what I had stopped trying to prove. That summer, my daughter started kindergarten. I packed her a sandwich in wax paper, tied her shoes, and slipped a small note into her pocket. It read, "You are enough even in silence." At drop-off, I didn't see Sloane. Her daughter was escorted by a nanny. Later that month, one of the teachers pulled me aside and said gently, "She keeps asking for someone to film her during activities. It's like she thinks she needs to be watched to exist." I nodded but didn't explain. I wasn't interested in blaming a child for the echoes her mother couldn't stop chasing. The seasons turned over without much noise. Fall arrived and brought with it an invitation I didn't expect. The city's Women's Business Council was hosting their first annual gala to honor mothers who had made tangible contributions to small business, mentorship, and education. I had no idea I was nominated until the envelope arrived in my mailbox. When my name was called, I walked onto a modest stage in a velvet dress and accepted a wooden plaque shaped like a sprouting seed. My mother waited at the bottom of the steps. When I reached her, she hugged me and whispered, "I'm proud of how you never had to fight ugly." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night, I didn't post photos. I didn't tag sponsors or flash the award online. I just went home, put the plaque on my bookshelf, and read my daughter 2 bedtime stories while she clutched her rabbit beneath the covers. 2 days later, Sloane sent a message. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't defensive. It simply said, "I'm moving to Michigan. I don't want this anymore. I hope you're happy." I didn't reply. I didn't block her. I didn't feel the need to. That wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't reconciliation, it was distance. And for the first time, it felt like enough. After she moved, the silence around her felt real for the first time. No vague posts, no digs disguised as affirmations, no reappearing business launches with recycled names and stolen quotes. I expected another wave, some kind of last gasp for attention, but it never came. Her pages went inactive, her email stayed quiet, and eventually, even the cousin who used to forward everything stopped checking in. It felt less like a win and more like the end of a story no one wanted to reread again. Life started feeling lighter in a way I didn't fully notice until months had passed. The tension that once filled family events had vanished without ceremony. Conversations moved naturally, not like careful negotiations arranged around an invisible tripwire. I kept working on my business, now steady and growing, with more wholesale requests than I could always accommodate. Instead of chasing visibility, I focused on quality. I hired two part-time assistants, both young mothers with backgrounds in design, and taught them how to build what I'd once crafted alone at my kitchen table. Orders were no longer just from families and parent groups. One day, a small gallery requested a custom run for a memory exhibit they were curating. Another week, I got a handwritten note from a grandmother in Vermont who had received one of the hospital kits and wanted to thank me for making something without glitter or guilt. I printed that letter and hung it inside the studio near the packing shelves. My daughter, now 5, had started bringing home little art projects folded with care, each one signed with a lopsided heart. She talked more now, asked sharper questions, but still had her quiet way of observing before speaking. At bedtime, she sometimes asked me if the stories we read were true or just made up. I told her both could be beautiful if told with honesty. And she nodded, like that was all she needed. Fiona came over one Sunday afternoon with croissants and news that one of the aunts had bumped into Sloane at a bookstore in Lansing. She'd been quiet, polite, said she was focusing on her daughter and keeping things simple. I didn't ask anything else. I didn't want updates anymore. Whatever Sloane was doing wasn't mine to monitor. Her name didn't make my chest tighten anymore. It just felt like something from a chapter we'd already turned the page on. When people mentioned her now, it wasn't with tension or careful language. It was casual, distant, like talking about someone from an old job you didn't stay in touch with. No one asked for sides. No one compared holiday outfits or hinted about business ventures. They asked how my daughter was adjusting to school, if I still had that lemon bar recipe from last spring, or where they could order another keepsake kit for a niece about to deliver. The comparisons stopped being about aesthetics. They were about pace, peace, and presence. I never told people the full story unless they'd lived parts of it beside me. I didn't need to explain the folder named Driftwood, or how many nights I'd stayed silent through insults because I knew the truth had more power when I didn't hand it to someone else. Letting people notice the difference on their own was the best kind of justice, undramatic, unforced, and irreversible. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I thought about how much energy I had once spent trying not to be mistaken for someone else's echo. But I didn't carry bitterness for it anymore. I saw it now for what it was, a fire that didn't deserve my oxygen. I used to wonder if peace was something you fought for, but I learned it's more often something you protect by refusing to fight at all. I still create. I still volunteer. I still walk my daughter to school in the mornings and carry an extra umbrella in case it rains. The life I have now isn't curated for viewing. It's lived, loved, and steady in its own quiet orbit. It doesn't shine to prove a point. It glows because it doesn't need an audience.